Welcome to I Accidentally Married a Filipina. My name is Rob, but this is not my story. This is Paul's story. Here it goes. In early 2023, I decided to make my lifelong dream of moving to the Philippines come true. I had been saving for quite some time and I retired early at 55 with a $2,500 pension. I sold my 3-bedroom, 1-bath house in Indiana for $185,000 and kept $105,000 after mortgage payoff and closing fees. I was twice married with no kids and had soured on Western women, so I jumped on a plane to Angeles City to begin my new life. I did not expect to live in Angeles, but I did expect to have some fun for a week or so and then find a remote beach and live my life among the locals and tropical drinks. I drank myself to sleep on the overnight portion of the trip and landed in Clark about 8 p.m. local time. I caught a taxi to Walking Street and got scammed for the first time of my trip by the taxi driver who did not start the meter and took advantage of this Midwestern rube to triple the rate. I was mad, but once my feet hit Walking Street, the lights, the smells, the women, and the action cheered me right up. I went to Philly's sports bar, as seen on YouTube, for a burger and a beer. 3 beers later, I'm hitting on a waitress, and she is smiling as if she just met her favorite movie star. 2 more beers, and I asked her out after her shift, and she politely turned me down, but she said she had a friend that is single and looking for a good man. She contacts her friends, and 2 beers later, her friend arrives, and she is very pretty with her shimmery dyed blonde hair cut into a bob and medium tan skin. She was thin but lightly curvy and about 5 feet 1 inches tall. I asked her name and she said Shane. I thought that was an odd name for a girl, but to me she was so stunningly pretty she could have been named Bill and I would not have cared. We exchanged our WhatsApp numbers and I invited her back to my hotel as I had not checked in yet. She said she would make sure I made it there safe. As we walked approximately 1/2 mile, I almost didn't notice that at some point she had put her hand in my hand and was stroking my arm with her other hand. This put me into a spin because if you would ask me what my perfect woman looks like, it would be Shane. We check in and head to the room. As I fumble with the key card, Shane says she wants to see me tomorrow, but she has to get home before her family starts to worry. I feel a little dejected, but she grabs my face and pulls me in for a really short, really sweet kiss. I say goodbye and promise to call her in the morning. I wake up 15 hours later and wonder if Shane had been all a dream. She was perfect. My thoughts were brought back to reality with my WhatsApp ringing, and it was Shane. She said she was busy now but wanted to meet back at Philly's for dinner and drinks at 8 p.m. I went about my day exploring the SM Mall and lounging by the rooftop pool. I went to Philly's at the appointed time and in walked Shane in a form-fitting white sleeveless crop top and cut-off jean shorts showing her perfectly toned legs. I almost fell out of my stool. Shane came in and hugged me tight. We ordered, and she told me all about her day. As she told me all about her family and her education and her distaste for local men, I kept ordering beers and enjoying this beautiful woman telling her life story. We go back to the hotel, and once again, Shane stops short at the door, gives me a short, sweet kiss, and says she'll see me tomorrow. I was a bit frustrated, but definitely still enamored. This same scenario plays out for the next 4 days, and finally I brashly ask her what her problem is. Don't you like me? She responds, no, I love you. I'm waiting until I marry. I just blurt out, let's just get married then. She giggles and says yes. The next day we went to the proper authorities and get a Senomar and background from the PNP and birth certificates, etc. We did most of this at a place that specialized in Philam marriages. It took a total of 23 days, and we went back and had a courthouse wedding with just us and her mom and 2 sisters. Everyone was very happy for the proceedings, and we all went back to the hotel and partied the night away in the resto bar. It was a great evening and a great party. We all went to our separate rooms, and I stumbled into bed and waited on my perfect bride. Apparently I had too much to drink as I woke up in my shirt and tie with a terrible hangover. Shane was already up, showered and dressed, and brought me some coffee. I couldn't believe I let her down like this. I promised to make it up to her, and she reassured me she would be ready.
My name is Shane. I am 26 years old and my mom calls me a free spirit and calls me her twin. My father was U.S. helicopter pilot and my mother says he good man. He died in crash when I was young and U.S. government send me check each month from his service. It is not much for America but it is enough to care for us. I think this why I look for American man for husband because of my dad. I date some foreign but they always want only my skin not love relationship. I have time so I can wait for right man. My friend works waitress at sports bar and sees a cano and she calls me to meet. He is very guapo and not too old so I agree to date. I move too quick because I have secret I hold back from Paul. Paul good man and I agree to marry too much soon but my secret makes me have rush.
As I got in the shower to try and sober up, my phone kept blowing up. I knew Shane was still in the room, so I blew it off because she was really all I needed. It would not stop, so I answer, and my half-brother is calling to tell me our dad was in a terrible car accident and probably wouldn't make the weekend. I tell Shane the terrible news and she tries to console me, but my emotions got the better of me as my dad was just about the best friend I had in the world. I hastily pack my belongings and grab my new wife and head for the airport. At the airport, I tell Shane how much I love her and I will be back as soon as I make my dad's arrangements. And I leave the $2,000 cash I have on me to take care of herself and file the marriage license. I get back to Indiana and rush to the hospital where my dad and stepbrother are waiting on me. He advises me that Dad looks a mess from being ejected from the car, but he is hanging on. The only words he has spoken has been asking for me. I immediately break down into tears as I enter my dad's room. He looks terrible. I can't believe he's still alive. He doesn't open his eyes, so I tell him I love him and I go for a coffee with my stepbrother. We meet at the hospital every day for 3 days until our father passes away. My stepbrother and I bury our father and wade through his estate. We split everything up evenly. He opted for the house and cars, and I said the $254,000 cash makes more sense for me and my new wife. We say our goodbyes, and I call Shane to recount the events of the past week, and I tell her we never have to worry about money ever, and that a lack of funds will not be something that can harm our marriage. Shane tells me the money is not important to her, that only I matter in her life, and to please take the next plane home to the Philippines so we can begin our lives together. I do so, but in my haste, I didn't realize that I did not get the 24-hour ticket. I got the 40-hour ticket with a 16-hour layover in Japan. What was done was done. I land in Japan and go through customs to a hotel that has tiny rooms with tiny bathrooms. I call Shane to tell her of my mistake. I tell her now that we have money. I can take my credit card and just book another flight leaving Japan sooner. She said, "Do not waste your money. I will be at the airport at the regular time. Be safe. I love you." As I'm about to go to sleep, I call Shane on a video call and she answers in what appears to be a hospital waiting room. She says she is out of breath and can't stay awake. Her two sisters take the phone and ask if there is any way I can send money, as Shane told us you can afford a hospital because they can't. I said, "You'll have to wait until I get there." I didn't sleep a wink. 1 5-hour flight later, I'm landing at Clark and desperately searching for Shane. I spot her mom, who Shane favors in her looks, and I see her 2 college-age sisters. I rush to them shouting for Shane, but they are only crying. "What I didn't know," explains the mom, "is that Shane knew that she had a heart condition that could cause her to expire at any time. The doctors were amazed that Shane made it that long, and that is why she fell in love with me so fast and married even faster. I wanted to die right there. We went and I arranged my second funeral in 30 days. It was all a blur. Every time I saw Shane's mother out of the corner of my eye, my heart skipped a beat because my brain wanted it to be Shane because of their resemblance. I stayed at the family's house for a couple of weeks trying to remember Shane and receiving comfort from the family in the form of food, crying together, and just not being alone. After about 3 weeks, I felt cooped up and went into Angeles for a beer. Of course, I stopped at Philly's, and I began to drink as though I would never see another beer in my life. A very attractive blonde Filipina came up and said, "You look sad." I told her not only was I sad, I was drunk, and I wasn't ready to stop. She asked if she could come in and sit by me. Something about her blonde hair made me say yes. I was super drunk, and she talked me into going to the Love Hotel for a short time. I'm not married anymore, I thought. Why should I continue to suffer? I pay the attendant, and we go to the room. As I fumble with the key card, blonde-haired girl starts to rub my arm, and it floods back memories of my precious Shane. I peel off 3,000 pesos and shove it in her hand, apologize, and head back to my family. I arrive back, and the mother motions her daughters to take off my shoes and socks and rub my feet while the mother gives me a beer. Mom says, "You are among family. We will care for you just as you care for Shane." I appreciated that. The mother sends her daughters off to bed, and she says, "You are our family. We are very sad for our daughter Shane. We want you to remain in our family, so you may choose one of my other daughters." I thought about it as they are both very cute, and I was very drunk, but I told her my heart belongs to Shane. I headed over to Shane's old room, and before I fell asleep, I looked at all of her belongings, ribbons from school, stuffed animals, pictures with her friends around town. This seemed to be the only place where I can find any peace. As the alcohol takes over, I allow it to smoothly drift me off to dreamland, where I always meet Shane, and we hold hands and kiss at the door. This is the best dream ever. But this time we did not stop at the door. Shane motions me into the room. She is wearing her wedding dress, and I cannot believe how lucky I am to have this perfect woman. She comes to me and lays next to me in her childhood bed, and then all of a sudden I am jolted awake as I get a notification on my phone. It provides just enough light to see her mother laying next to me asleep, wearing Shane's wedding dress. As you can imagine, waking up to Shane's mother wearing her daughter's wedding dress was more than I could process, so while Sarah slept, I hurriedly packed my suitcase and eased out the back door as the sun was about to break loose from the Angeles city skyline. I walked towards Walking Street, and more specifically Tequila Reef, to grab some breakfast. I ordered 2 eggs over medium, toast and bacon, and waited as quite a few other expats had the same breakfast plans as I did. As I zoned out and began to contemplate the events from earlier this morning, I couldn't shake the idea that I had just woke up next to my mother-in-law Sarah wearing Shane's wedding dress. Alternating shame and pleasure emotions played out in my head as I was ashamed that Shane would be disappointed in me, but also the pleasure that when I thought it was Shane, my world turned right side up and I was happy again, if only for a minute. I had sat out front of the beer rail, and a few expats whom I figured to be regulars asked if I could move down so they could all sit together. I obliged and picked up my food, trying to either justify my shame by blaming Sarah and beer and wanting to chalk it up to a pleasurable experience believing it was my wife. Either way, I had to find a place to go. I finished most of my breakfast, and the expat close to me asked if I had just arrived. This puzzled me, so I said, "No. Why?" He pointed at my suitcase, and I said, "Oh, no. I just checked out of the hotel, and I'm looking for something a little more calm and a little more safe." The expat group, almost in unison, barked, "Filipina problems," and they laughed. I replied something like that and laughed to fit in. One expat introduced himself as Brian and said there were openings in his condo community if I was interested. I thought this could be a good place to start, so I took him up on his offer, and when he was done eating, he drove me in my suitcase about 2 miles west of Fields Avenue and into a facility that was patterned after Spanish villas. It looked nice, but I was expecting a high-rise condo building, not duplexes. Brian said he would show me his condo, and if I liked it, he would drop me off at the manager's office. As it turned out, Brian was retired from the police force and had lived in and around Angeles for 6 years. He said he really liked this location because it was close enough to the action, but too far for the working girls to follow you home. His place was a tidy 2-bedroom, 1-bath with aircon and a big enough kitchen. I told him I thought it was a nice place, but I only needed a 1-bedroom. He said about 1/4 of the duplexes had a 1-bedroom option, so he chauffeured me up to the manager's office, and I thanked him. The manager was a cute Filipina, probably in her mid-30s, professionally dressed in tight black slacks and a puffy white button-up shirt. She had me fill out some paperwork and walked me to the 1-bedroom condo to view. The condo was already modestly furnished right down to the pots and pans. The cute Filipina manager said I could save some money and buy my own furnishings over time, but that most expats just took the condos already furnished to avoid having to hire a truck every time they wanted to move, and this property was all bills paid, so it was convenient. I told the cute manager lady I was looking for convenient and quick, as I needed a fresh start right now. My paperwork came back satisfactory, as I knew it would, and I got the keys and began the process of moving in. Really, I just unpacked my suitcase. I stayed to myself and in my condo most of the week, as I was almost scared I would run into Sarah and have to explain my hasty departure, and I was still feeling guilty for my actions and wouldn't know how to even verbalize what I was thinking or feeling, so it was better to just lay low for a few days. I was running low on supplies, so I headed towards the S.M. Clark to get some groceries. I loaded up for a week in case I didn't feel like leaving the condo just yet. I stopped at Andox for some grilled chicken to go for lunch by the pool. I changed into my trunks and grabbed my Andox and a San light and went to relax in the sun. As I finished my meal, I see Brian roll in with a pretty cute but skinny Filipina in an even skinnier bikini. Brian comes over and introduces me to his date and tells me his breakfast friends are coming over to hang out and drink at the pool, and I should stay as the scenery is usually pretty good. I have nothing better to do, so I throw away my trash and head to the condo to get another beer. By the time I return to the pool, it looks like the old folks' home invited the nightclub girls over for a pool party blowout. Expats tend to be an elderly bunch, but these guys made me look like a kid. But I will have to admit they rolled in style. I hadn't seen that much barely covered skin all in one place in quite some time. As I lived 20 yards from the pool, I went back to the condo for another beer. I stayed out with the expat crew for about another 3 hours and really enjoyed myself. As I left, Brian told me this was an every Saturday and Sunday event, so I'll see you tomorrow. Weeks go by, and I'm getting to know the expat crew pretty well, and the ones with the same girlfriends, I got to know them as well. I was falling into a routine and starting to feel better about my situation. Every morning, I'd jog around the property, shower, breakfast at Tequila Reef, wander around the mall, or run errands. Take a dip in the pool, have dinner, watch NFL games on the replay, and then sit on the front porch before bed. The only real break from this routine is Saturday and Sunday hot Filipina pool parties. I look forward to these as I haven't dated since moving into the condo here 5 months ago, and I had one more month to decide if I wanted to renew my lease or move on. I was becoming very attached to the routine I created, and there wasn't really any reason to move other than it would be nice to have more friends my age to discuss things other than Social Security and high blood pressure medicine. It was again Saturday, and Brian came in early with his Filipina Linda and another Filipina friend of hers. Pleasantries were exchanged, and the rest of the group arrived, and as always, the scantily clad Filipinas all splashed about in the pool while the expats talked politics and diabetes medication. I found a lounge chair near the expats, but within view of the sexy pool entertainers. It was a little hotter than usual, so I got up to go get another San Mig light from the fridge, and as I was leaving, Brian asked if Linda could use my bathroom if I was headed that way. By the time she finished, I had put on another coat of sunscreen, grabbed a beer, and waited by the door, and we headed to the pool. Linda made some small talk about her friend she brought today. They both worked at the same bar, but don't worry, she is just a waitress, not a bar girl. I asked why would I be worried? I haven't been to a bar in 6 months. Linda slapped my arm and said, because she thinks you're guapo. I really had no response, as I had not been in this mode for quite some time, so I just shrugged my shoulders and moved on back to the pool. I stopped to talk to Brian and the guys, and as I was facing the pool, I saw Linda whispering into her friend's ear, and her friend being very interested. Her friend looked over at me and caught me staring at her, and I nervously looked away. They laughed and went back to splashing around. Dusk was about to set in, and I decided on one more beer, and Brian asked once again if Linda could use my bathroom, and off we went. This time, when I turned around from the refrigerator, Linda and her friend were walking out of the bathroom. Her friend reintroduced herself as Kara and asked me for a beer as Linda left the condo. I stood talking to Kara, and she turned out to be very funny and spoke pretty good English. I hadn't had to use my charm in quite some time, but her skimpy bikini and my cold aircon was making it obvious that Kara was enjoying my company. Kara asked if she could get me a beer, and I said sure. She popped the top and brought it to me and asked for a tip. I said my wallet was in my other pants. She stepped up and kneeled on the bar stool and leaned in and kissed me very passionately right on the lips. Thanks for the tip, she said, and climbed down to drink her beer. Awkward silence followed, but she said something funny and all was well. I went to the bathroom, and when I came back, Kara was holding another beer for me and demanding a tip. She was a great kisser, so I leaned in and she put her hand up to stop me. Not here, in there, as she pointed at my bedroom. Well, it has been some time, so I will leave the next few minutes up to your imaginations. Abruptly, there was a knock at the door, and Kara jumped up and rushed to the door with Linda and waved goodbye with a big smile, and they got into Brian's car for the ride back to Angeles. Sunday arrived right on schedule, and so did Kara. She followed me from the pool to my condo to use the bathroom. She didn't seem to mind, so why should I? The scenario played out regularly every Saturday and Sunday until it hits the fan. I saw Brian at Tequila Reef the next Friday, and he got a big grin on his face and said, "What's up, slugger?" That was a weird salutation. I responded with, "Just getting some eggs like always." Brian said, "I guess you don't know what I'm talking about." "I guess I don't," I said. He said that Kara told Linda that you have been stealing away from the pool party to fall in love with her. She told Linda she thinks you're the best foreigner ever, and she can't wait to sneak away with you every time she can. She is definitely in love. I chuckled a little to hide my embarrassment and changed the subject. I mean, this isn't who I am. How had I got so far away from the memory of Shane, and really, that was my true love, not some halfway bar girl from Walking Street. I needed to clean up my act. Back to the condo, and I went through my usual routine and was watching Thursday night football on replay Friday night. The game sucked, so I was about to head to bed, and there was a little knock on my door. That was suspicious. I was not suspecting anyone, but it was the cute manager lady dropping off the notice for renewal to fill out and bring back by Monday. I told her I was considering it and thanked her for the personal delivery service. She smiled big and excused herself. I took a look at the form and went to bed, and as I was about to drift off, another timid knock at my door. Great, maybe cute manager lady wants me to sign up now, I thought to myself. I opened the door, and it was Kara on a Friday night of all nights. She asked if she could come in, and as she had just got off work, and could she take a shower. Awfully bold of her to presume I was awake and wanted company, which I did not. I told her that this had gone too far and I couldn't keep acting like this, so I apologized and gave her 100 pesos for the tricycle fare back to Angeles. I know I shouldn't be so callous, but I had to nip this in the bud before I became that expat. Saturday pool day was a little hotter than usual, but still a great day. Brian brought a small portable grill to grill hot dogs and hamburgers on that he bought at Landers earlier that day. Other expats brought side dishes, and there was plenty of alcohol to go around. Brian was busy on the grill, so I assisted him by drinking beer and critiquing his form. He appreciated the help, and I asked where Linda was. He said she was shopping for a new bikini and would be by on her scooter before long. The party was really coming together well, and one of the bathing beauties brought a Bluetooth speaker and started bumping an 80s playlist that made not only the Filipinas shake their moneymakers, but even a few of the expats started dancing to the classics. I see Linda pull up on her scooter, and she comes over to the grill to greet Brian and says hello to me. Brian asked me to let Linda use my condo to change. I walk over and unlock the door and decide to reapply my sunscreen for the hot Saturday sun. While Linda was changing, she yells out the bathroom door that Kara felt ill this morning, so she wouldn't be at the pool party today. I'm breathing a sigh of relief because I was hoping to get out of that deal easily. Linda pops open the bathroom door in a bright yellow tiny bikini that barely covered her lady bits. She throws her hands in the air and says, "What do you think?" I try not to stare at her perfectly proportioned body that was all on display. I say it looks perfect, and I usher her to the door. Whew. Man, that was a close one, I thought to myself. I cannot afford any more woman problems. I locked the door and went back to my post at the grill. Linda went and paraded her new bikini in front of Brian, and she looked very disappointed that he was paying more attention to the sizzling meat than he was to her. She went to the pool and carefully waded in so as not to uncover anything that only Brian should see. The sun was setting, and me and Brian had been kicking back the brews and grilling nonstop for 4 hours. All of a sudden, Brian fell onto the table holding his beer and his plate of food. Everyone rushed over to fan him off and offer him some hydration other than beer. His face was flushed. He had stopped sweating and wasn't sure who Linda was. Linda and the rest of the expats helped Brian back to his air-conditioned condo, and just like that, the party was over. I stayed around and cleaned up the paper plates and empty bottles so we could continue our weekend parties going forward. The good news was there was a lot of alcohol left over. No sense letting it go to waste, so I took it to the condo and cracked a few beers open as I watched another NFL game on replay. I jumped in the shower and took a shower beer with me and just relaxed under the warm water and thought how much I liked living here, and I would for sure re-sign another 6-month lease. I went back out to the living room and settled on watching a movie on Netflix. Halfway into the movie, there was a timid knock on the door, and I just hoped it wasn't Kara coming to cause problems. Much to my surprise, it was cute manager lady asking me if I was going to sign my lease or not, as she had someone interested in this unit. I told her I would get it to her tomorrow. She smiled big and thought that sounded great. She seemed happy, so I took my shot. "Would you like to go to lunch with me tomorrow?" I asked. She blushed and said she would really like that, and I could pick her up at the office at 11 a.m. "Great," I said, as she excused herself back to work. I was on top of the world. This was an intelligent, beautiful, very professional, employed Filipina. I felt like I hit the jackpot. Maybe now I could start moving forward in a positive direction. I went back to the Netflix movie and another beer and contemplated where I should go on my lunch date to impress cute manager lady. It just dawned on me I didn't even know her name. Then another timid knock on the door. Great, I can ask her name. I opened the door, and instead of cute manager lady, it was Linda. She had covered up with an oversized t-shirt, and she looked disheveled, probably from caring for Brian. She pushed her way in and said she left her clutch bag in the bathroom from when she changed, and could she grab it. As she searched the bathroom, she said she was stressed out and was there any vodka left from the party. I pointed at it in the kitchen counter, and she poured herself half a glass over ice and added a splash of ginger ale, also left over from the party. As she slammed the vodka drink, she said she was so worried about Brian. He didn't know who she was, and he just sat there staring into space as she tried to get some water down his throat. She poured herself another big drink and continued telling me how she was worried because if Brian died, her life would change drastically. Brian had been her benefactor for the past 2 years, and she knew he wasn't going to live long, but she had put the work in and wanted him around longer. She poured herself another strong one and excused herself to the bathroom. I grabbed a beer and told myself I knew there was no way she was in it for the love. But they are both adults and they can make whatever agreement they wanted. Whatever, I thought as I hear the shower start running. I go, "What are you doing?" "Showering," she said. "I am very haggard." Again, whatever. Soon she will be out and on her way. I start cleaning up my mess and the bathroom door swings open and there stands Linda, not wearing a stitch. Not a flaw to be found, just stunningly beautiful. Linda walks past me to put her glass in the sink. She turns around and puts her arms around my neck and says she is very jealous of Kara, and since Kara and Brian aren't around, she wants me. I told her I didn't want to do that to Brian, and she said she is not telling the secret. I tell her I can't go on like this, and I am really uncomfortable, and I want her to leave. Just then I hear pounding on my door and someone rattling the doorknob. And I hear Kara yell at Linda to come out and for me to open the door.